It's my pleasure to introduce to you on behalf of the CalABA board, Mr. Brett DiNovi, one of our invited speakers. He studied under Dr. Julie Vargas. He also interned with, shortly after, the Continuous Learning Group, where he explored combining his training and education, as well as OBM and leadership. And when he wanted to raise the bar for children in residential programs, he embarked on starting his own agency, Brett DiNovi and Associates, which has been in operation for 14 years and has grown to be one of the largest organizations on the East Coast. You can see from his work that Brett combines his love and passion for science as it relates to leadership, evidenced by his talks on OBM, life hacks, and many more. You could check out his YouTube site, and he's got all his talks there. It's pretty cool. Without further ado, I want to help you join me in welcoming Mr. Brett DiNovi.
Thanks, Isaac. That was an awesome introduction. First, I just have to say how genuinely, authentically grateful I am that people came to the talk. Because I'm not going to lie to you, last night I had the craziest dream that I showed up in here, and it was my daughter, my fiance, and Tyler, and that was it. And it was crickets. So I'm extremely grateful that you guys are here. I'm somebody who grinds every single day, pounding the pavement, to be an entrepreneur and just create economic opportunity for people. That means from 14 years ago, just starting with myself and one other person. We had no associates for Brett DiNovi Associates. It was myself, and now I guess over 400 and some, and we reach out and collaborate with different organizations. So anyway, I'm just grateful for your presence here. So what we're going to talk about today are 7 critical factors to scale an organization. Can I ask first, who here may have some equity stake or be an owner in a business by show of hands? Oh yeah, entrepreneurs. It's hard. Nod your head if it's hard. You're the accountant. You're also the employment law attorney at times. You're also the bookkeeper. You're also HR. So who here is in some sort of leadership position by a show of hands in your organization? Great. All right, so we're pretty much covering everyone in this talk, so it doesn't mean you have to be a business owner. So what I want to do first is talk about growth. Why is it important for growth? Why is it important for our science and the field of applied behavior analysis to grow organizations? I'm going to be honest with you, 4 out of the 7 principles are very solid and deep literature in the organizational behavior management literature. The other 3 have some research behind them, the first 3, but there's not a whole lot. It's just me grinding every day and failing a lot. So now, when it comes to growth, the reason I want to talk about growth is that we're in an interesting phase with our industry. Have you noticed that what happens is every industry throughout decade after decade in the United States and throughout the world, the industry ends up being taken over by these conglomerates, these large companies. Companies acquire companies, they evaluate them based on EBITDA, the formula for evaluation, they purchase them, and then the companies sometimes end up losing their soul. You know what I mean? By losing their soul, they end up having to adhere to certain bureaucracies and things that got away from the original reason that they started their agency and the why. So all throughout history, you'll see American Airlines merging with what? United Air. They became a conglomerate, this behemoth of organization. You'll see Amazon taking over Whole Foods. You'll see one after another where they dominate, and then what happens is they start to get away from the reason that they did what they did and the actual science or the practitioner and the reason that the founder started the organization. So my goal today is to figure out ways to work with throwing out these 7 factors to show how you can grow. We actually would double every year for the last 4 years, but now we've slowed that down a little bit. There's certain plateaus that we're hitting at this point. So that's my purpose for today, showing why growth is important. There's many reasons. One of them, so I don't know, I think it's important. One reason for growth reason number 1, besides not being taken over by these giant conglomerates of agencies. Number 1 is to make sure that you have diversity in your skill set of folks. So even if you're part of a small agency, you guys all know, can I just ask you by a show of hands, how many people here have felt at times that they walked into a school, or they walked into a client's home, or they walked into another interdisciplinary team and they felt like they were on an island? Raise your hand. When I mean on an island, like people not speaking the language. Behavior analysts need to travel in packs, and we need collegial discussion. So one of the reasons I'm suggesting growth of your organization is so that you have, okay, all I know is that I can go to New York or North Jersey and contact Heidi Light to be able to understand VB map. Or if you need an expert, again, breadth and depth is important in your organization, or at least collaborating with other agencies and building those relationships. If I need to know that someone has experience with legal issues in schools and behavior analytic ones specifically, like it's very gray sometimes when the FBA is required, isn't it? Who here ever does FBAs in schools? Or you have, right? A lot of gray areas. So we ended up hiring a full-time attorney that's also a BCBA. He practices as a BCBA. So again, it's about breadth and depth, the growth so that your organization has key elements to put it all together, or at least putting together advisory boards. The second is for diversity of funding. There's nothing worse than having all of your eggs in one basket. And this happened to me 14 years ago. I just want to be straight with you, transparent. It's kind of embarrassing. So 14 years ago, I started the organization in New Jersey, and we had a situation where one school district was our largest provider. They provided 3/4 of our revenue. And the superintendent called me in the office, and it was about the bottom line. It was about money. And he said, you're going to say this in your report, and you're going to say this because we write your check. Now, no one's ever I'm not saying anyone's ever unduly influenced you that way, but raise your hands if you ever felt pressure about money and compromising clinical, some pressure. About half of you. So the reason why I think it's important to have diversity of funding is simply for that reason. So I told the superintendent, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I went in and I said what was right for that learner. So they fired us, we lost a contract, and that was 3/4 of our revenue. And we were back to just the grind again. But I felt so good about the ethical decision that what he wanted me to say and do was going to be harmful to that child, to that learner. You get what I mean? So diversity in funding is critical. Not to mention for the livelihood of your organization. You can't, just because the low-hanging fruit might be this Medicaid, or it might be this health insurance, or it might be this school district, we decided we better spread over 130 school districts because of this exact reason. But here's the interesting thing. The same I hope he's not going to watch this talk. The same superintendent contacted me a year ago, which is 13 years later, and he had a nephew on the autism spectrum and asked if we'd be willing to help. I was like, oh, now you know me. Number 3, diversification of funding also gives you discretionary money. Look, we all have all these, I talk to entrepreneurs every day, and I try to determine if it's a good match for us to partner, or maybe angel invest, or just maybe work together. Maybe there's nothing we can get at. I just want to disseminate the science. And what's interesting is that our science can bleed into so many different directions, but we're pigeonholed into autism and developmental disabilities because of funding. And I absolutely have a strong mission for serving autism and developmental disabilities. I have a stepson on the autism spectrum. I'm bought in. I do it every single day. I live it. But we need discretionary funds, so you need to grow your organization in order to have discretionary funds to be able to push the ball forward and move that needle in different areas of science. I mean, they might be just people we partner with, and one of them started studying the ACT, Acceptance Commitments Therapy, and its application to coaching. The hopes are that we can help pro athletes at some point. Another one, our specific initiative was using telehealth, and we lost money every single day for at least 2 years. But the way we made our margin off of autism services by doing a quality job gave us that opportunity to have some money off the bottom line to push the ball forward with disseminating the science. You follow me? It's important. I think like Isaac said, that was pretty cool about the social skills limos. We found that, look, it's safer for us to bring a learner with autism that's very severe with the behaviors and then not attack the driver because there's a partition coming up. And right now with Uber and taxis going away, it's pretty easy to get a bunch of limos for cheap. So we have them floating around.